Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm working on day 13 of ByTheWell4God's Trusting a Good God devotional. I'm definitely jumping around in this devotional, and today we're in Psalm 34:8 and talking about tasting and seeing that the Lord is good. This verse says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." Judy writes in this devotional, "Taste and see the goodness of God. Not a quick bite or glance, but personally experience, savor, gaze, observe, and soak in what God has done in your life. Bring out those memories of his working on your behalf and let them linger in your mind, wondering again at his kindness and mercy." Spurgeon also writes about these verses and says, "You cannot know his goodness without tasting it." And so I've taken that simple quote and added it to one of these label pieces, and I'm going to create a cluster. Now, I want my base of my cluster to be a tag because I want a lot of texture in this page without making it overwhelming. So I'm taking the tag and adding all my texture there. Using this Kaleidoscope embossing folder, I brought it over to my Big Shot and ran it through, and now we're going to use the new color Lost Shadow, and using that embossing glaze on it, I just take the embossing dabber and kind of put it around sporadically around this tag. And I'm actually going to create 2 layers of this. This is a very light color in the embossing glaze, which I really like because you can build it up a lot. And so by putting 2 layers down, I'm definitely going to get a good color payoff. I really love this new color Lost Shadow. I'm not much of a gray person, but I might be after this color. Usually I, go more towards brown, but I really love this. So like I said, I added 2 separate layers of this kind of in the same general regions. And then I'm going to take my distress crayons and use Walnut stain and just grunge this thing up with my finger and the crayon, and we're gonna just kind of go crazy with a bunch of different products here. Now lately I've been using a flower towel in my craft room to clean stamps with just my little spray bottle and whatnot, but it also works great on mixed media tags like this where you use embossing powder or glazes, because you can wipe off the top. As you saw here, it wiped off the top layer of that distress crayon that was over that area. So obviously the distress crayon stays in the places that has just paper, but it wipes off in that embossing glaze area. I did want to add some ice spruce because that is kind of more of that greenish gray color, and my ice spruce is very wet, so I just kind of smush my tag down into it, and then I'm picking up the excess with that flower towel again. I will make sure that is good and dry. And then I also took out my foundry waxes. Now I haven't used my foundry waxes in a while, and I'm not sure if my the metal shaker ball kind of got stuck up near the top, and that is why. But my gold one was a little dried out on top. When I squirted it, it kind of came out as a little, dried up worm. And so I used a little sewing needle and punched my sewing needle in the top, and it actually pushed that ball down, and then everything came out normal. So I'm just using my finger to highlight some top areas of that embossed area, and then I'm also using it around the whole tag, and then I will heat set that, and it really makes this nice metallic look on this tag. Now that I have all the elements ready for my page, I will start working on my background. But first off, I did want to mention that doily is actually a die from Tim Holtz in 2015. It is pretty hard to find, but I did find it on Blick Arts, so I'll try to link that down below. Also, the tea is from the Big Idea Alpha from ByTheWell4God. I absolutely love these bigger alphas and numbers that they carry, and so I just decided I wanted to use it, and so we did tea for taste. I did want to dirty up these greenery pieces that I fussy cut out, and I'm still going to use the same color on the background as well. I just want a really nice light frayed burlap look, so I'm using my makeup brush. If you use one of those blending brushes, it definitely gives you a more concentrated color, but using a makeup brush, you really have control over how much color you want on your page. I knew I wanted something else in this background, but I also didn't want it to be too busy. I contemplated using that Boho Lash stencil, but I thought it might take away from the texture and everything I have going on with this tag. So while I am mulling over what I'm going to do in this background, I'm just going to put together this cluster. So I first grab a little eyelet to put at the top. I love adding some metal to my clusters. And then I'm going to grunge up this flashcard, add some frayed burlap around the edges, and glue these two pieces together. Now, I also want to make sure that T stands out. That T has very much so the same colors going on in that background of the tag. I did gold emboss it, but it's not popping as much as I was hoping against the background. And so I'm going to put it up on some foam tape to make sure to have it stand out. I'm also adding the greenery behind the T, so that will help separate it and differentiate it from the background as well. As I'm putting this cluster together, it makes it a little difficult to think as I don't have my background set. And so I decided to move the Bible out of the way and just work on this cluster. As I'm putting this glue down to glue down the flashcard and label, I decide I want to add a little paperclip to the top of this flashcard, but then completely realize that that is exactly where I'm putting that T. And so I've decided against putting that paperclip there for right now. I did want to add this doily, and it takes a lot of time to punch out all the little pieces. So instead of wasting the half that won't be seen, I decided to cut it in half so I can use that somewhere else. I did decide to put the paper clip on the right hand side of the flashcard, and then I have these Currator snippets in my ephemera book, and I'm deciding which ones might match. Some look more blue or yellow as soon as you put it on there, so it's nice to use this semi-permanent glue kind of rolling tape because then you can pick it up, kind of try it out, and then you can place it back on your page if it doesn't work, and usually they stay pretty well. So I've decided on two different pieces. I really like this little mini cluster under the paper clip, and we're going to grunge that up a little bit and glue that down as well. I did decide to add some frayed burlap around the edges of that T. That helps grunge it up because everything else is grungy in my life. And so why not add some to this T? And it also changes the color a little bit, just lightly. It darkens it up to make it a little bit different from the background as well. So now I want to make sure that I have the placement right on these greenery pieces. At first I wanted all three pieces underneath the T. However, that seemed a little bit much with the snippets cluster I just put on the right hand side of the flashcard. But I did know that I wanted these two bigger pieces underneath the T. So I added some glue to the bottom portions, and then I'm also using some tiny attacher staples to hold those in place. That way I know that they're secured and they will be hidden underneath that foam tape of the T, but they can kind of free float at the top of the greenery leaves and everything. My last little chunky sage leaf will live right behind that flashcard, and I like how it brings that green over to that side of the tag as well. I deconstructed one of the tab clippies, and then I'm going to use that with some mummy cloth in the bottom left-hand corner of this tag. I just love how that gives some nice texture. It just makes everything look old when you add that mummy cloth behind it. So I am grunging that up as well, making it look a little bit dirty, and then we're going to come back to this background. I've decided to use the God of My Salvation stamp set. I was trying not to because I've used this already this month, but I absolutely love this stamp set, so I decided to still use it. And then I'm using this kind of grimy stencil from Tim Holtz, and I'm using the Walnut Stain Embossing Glaze as well, and making this fun texture on the background. Now, this is a little tricky to do in your Bible. It does get messy over your desk, but if you can just clean it up fast, you don't have to even think about it much. So anyways, I will heat set that now that everything is cleaned up. And then after that, I'm just going to glue down this cluster and add my date stamp. And then this page will be done. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll try to link everything I use down below in the description. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.